Okay, well, welcome everyone. It's Michael Dotterer here on the East Coast, and I don't know if there's any latency here, but we're on the dot, and we've got a great show for you. We should have gotten on earlier today, but due to some technical issues, which I won't get into, that had to do with me, we are broadcasting in the evening. So it is the East Coast. It's evening time. The West Coast are in here. Issues here with my connection. So let me see what's going to go. I've got to close some things here. Let's see. All right. We've got some challenges here. If I can close some things and get back in. So, John, I think I can bring you in and you can talk. I don't know if this is being broadcast. So let's see here. Okay. Let me add you in here, John. John, you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me now?
I can. You know what I'm going to do, John? I'm going to let you take it away. I'm going to kind of log off and log back on because I think I've got some delay. So why don't you take it, start, and then I'll join you when I come back.
Okay.
Okay. So let me see if I can do that.
Well, as Michael repairs our technical difficulties, hopefully we get him back on shortly and begin the podcast, week 4 of our LittleTex OnTheDot show that we bring you, talking about sports and all sorts of things. And okay. There he is again. How's that, Michael? We're back on. We just might be the rain outside, huh? It's raining pretty good out here.
Well, unfortunately, what I think it is, I tend to open up a lot of different things on my computer, and I don't realize how much I have open. And then, you got to close everything. So I think that was the problem, and it might be the rain. Yes, we've got rain here in the Northeast.
Finally, it's been 40 days without rain, and now it won't stop.
Right. Well, as you know, John, we always like to start with birthdays. So since I've been late pretty much all day today, so you get to go first with birthdays.
Well, there's a lot of them. Obviously, the biggest name was Donald Trump, of course. It's ironic that he was born on the Flag Day, right? I mean, make America great, Mr. America President. And the guy was born on the 14th of June. But one that was interesting that I saw was, I'm a Dodger fan. I think I've told you that a few times. And Don Newcomb, one of the greatest Dodger pitchers of all time, his birthday is today. And what I didn't realize was when I was looking up his stats, he spent 3 years with the Cincinnati Reds. And I got to think it was the same 3 years that your dad played for the Reds that he caught Don Newcomb a few times.
Well, I have to interject here because I know you got more birthdays, but yes, my father was a teammate with Don Newcomb, and he really enjoyed catching Don. I remember my dad saying that he would put the mitt, he would behind the catcher, he'd say, okay, I want it right here. And the ball would be right there. I mean, He had probably the greatest control of his era of any pitcher. Kind of like, I guess, who was the guy that we grew up with was amazing was Maddox, right? Didn't Maddox have great control?
Yeah, Greg Maddox could put the ball wherever he wanted. That's why when he did hit a player, the players often looked at him like, are you kidding me? You can put the ball wherever you want. And you just drilled me in the rear end. And you knew you got hit or getting brushed back if Greg Maddox hit you because he couldn't miss. And there's a few other guys that back in the day that, you know, they relied on that, and that's how they got people out. But yeah, Don Newcomb, that one stuck out to me. And then there was a few others. Another one you probably met at some point in your Raider career was Ben Davidson, who, growing up, he was like, he actually appeared in a lot of movies as a crazy guy. But Ben Davidson, Oakland Raiders, great defensive tackle.
Yeah, Ben Davidson, he was the Howie Long of the 60s. He was the who would you say today would be Aaron Donald, maybe the Aaron Donald of that era. He was just a great defensive. Up in the Bay Area. There's my little, look at that. Must be the rain. Can you hear me?
Oh yeah, we're
break
fine.
up there.
We had a little delay.
Oh, okay. It's just, yeah. Ben Davidson, I'll never forget. This is like 1968, 69. And in the San Francisco Bay Area, I was on a swim team, and his two daughters, he had two daughters that were swimmers. And it was the father-daughter, or father, you know, I guess my dad, I don't think swam, or maybe he did. I don't think he did, but I know Ben Davidson did, because I remember watching him swimming a relay race with his daughters. And this is when he's, you know, in probably, you know, like the famous play is when he broke Joe Namath's jaw. I don't know if you know that, Ben Davidson.
Yes, I remember that.
But I'll never forget him diving off of the blocks on the swim, and the splash and the waves that it caused, because he was, back then, he was considered big. You know, today he'd just be average size, but back then it was. And I just remember the waves, and I said, "Oh my gosh!" And that was Ben Davidson. Yeah.
Yeah, it was funny you said about swimming, because we had talked earlier when we started this that my dad grew up in Schiller Park over on the north side. It's still there. And there was a old bathhouse still there that they use for recreation. And there's a pool at Schiller Park, a city parks pool. And I'm sure your dad and the North Side gang often went in there and swam. But my dad's name was carved into one of the banisters at Schiller Park. And I went there one day with probably a friend of your dad's too, a friend of mine. And we looked for the name, and we found it. We saw Tex. It was carved in. So I'm sure there's something there with Dutch or Dot or something else. Maybe we should go back there and look someday. But yeah. I'm sure your dad swam a little bit back in the day at Schiller Park.
Schiller Park, right? Those were the days. Yeah. I think that's where my dad, well, probably in the wintertime, I think my father said that really what helped him with his arm was throwing snowballs. He threw a lot of snowballs.
Oh, yeah. Probably at cars, right? They were probably
exactly.
Pretty good at throwing at cars. Back then, you couldn't miss a car. It was so big, right?
Right, the big ones. Yeah.
Kind of hard to miss a car back then.
Yeah. So any other birthdays on your end before I begin?
That's really all I got. I thought those two might be interesting to you.
Those are big ones. Yep. Those are big birthdays. Yeah. So let me give you my birthdays shout out. I want to send happy birthday to my good friend Vendon McLeod. And Vendon, this portion of LittleTex OnTheDot has been brought to you by Canna Globe. Canna Globe is a virtual dispensary. And I sent Vendon the link to Canna Globe because we met through a company, a cannabis company. And Vendon, I hope you take a great look at it. It's pretty exciting to know that you can have your own virtual dispensary and promote the medicinal properties of cannabis, which it's amazing, especially for sleep. If anyone out there wants to get better sleep, I highly recommend cannabis, going to your doctor and asking them, can cannabis help me with my sleep? And if a doctor doesn't know, I'm just going to say shame on that doctor, because they should know. And if they know, they'll say, if you're in a state where you can, a legal state, which half the states now are legal with cannabis, but if you're in a state that's still not legal, like Texas and I think Florida, you have to get a doctor's recommendation, which boggles my mind. Those are two great states, but I think you still have to get a doctor's recommendation or whatever. I don't want to say prescription but if your doctor should quickly write that and say, here's your, approval to go to the dispensary to get cannabis to help you with your sleep. So Canna Globe, this portion of our little text on the doc is brought to you by Canna Globe. So the next birthday.
Michael, could that have been why you slept in a little bit?
You know what? I could. It's funny. I did take it. Yes.
Yeah.
I did have
it works.
Gummy.
It worked.
What? Right. That's what happened.
You slept in for sure.
I slept in. Yeah, I did. Oh boy. Okay. Next birthday, and I go to my notes here because I like to go to notes. My next birthday is my Stanford teammate. This was 40 years ago. 40 years ago. This man, Brian Myers, it's his birthday today, was our pitcher in Omaha. And we went back-to-back World Series, and he was our pitcher. And actually tomorrow is another teammate of mine, and he was not only a pitcher, but he was John Elway's backup at quarterback, Steve Cottrell, and he was one of our pitchers in Omaha. So happy birthday today to Brian Myers, and happy birthday tomorrow to Steve Cottrell. And I know they're both in Southern California, and they were both tremendous players. And we're going to talk a little bit about the College World Series because we had some incidents that happened at Sunken Diamond that I'd like to get into, John, and get your thoughts on it, because we've got the 8 teams now who are all flying to Omaha as we speak to get ready for games on Friday and Saturday. So, and then tomorrow, another teammate of mine who played for the New York Giants and probably one of the greatest college players to come out of the state of Hawaii. He was our fullback at Stanford, Kalana Park. Happy birthday, Kalana. And then I got two more, and then a happy anniversary. Happy birthday to Coach Joe San Giacomo, Coach Joe San Giacomo, and his beautiful daughter, Leanne Salerno, who's married to my good friend, Jerry Salerno. And if you've ever seen The Sopranos, when Tony Soprano's pulling up to that house at the beginning of the show, that used to be Jerry Salerno's home in New Jersey. So
wow. Shout
out to Jerry and Leanne, and happy birthday, Leanne, to your father, who was a great football coach in the state of New Jersey. It's his birthday tomorrow. And one final note, Jerry's son, Rocco, is one of the top high school wrestlers in the state of New Jersey. He's a heavyweight, and he's quite a wrestler. So congratulations, Jerry, to your son, Rocco. And happy birthday on Friday to another teammate of mine from Stanford, who's one of our catchers. And he's now a surgeon at the Cleveland Clinic. He operates on fetuses. When the baby is still in the womb with the mother, he performs surgery. So he's one of the very few doctors in the world that does that. And his name is Dr. Daryl Cass. And he was on our baseball team and went to Omaha. So happy birthday to Dr. Cass, Dr. Daryl, as we call him. And then finally, happy anniversary to my Aunt Joanne and my Uncle Tom tomorrow. And Uncle Tom.
Wow. How many years?
Yep. Over 60. I don't know the exact number, but it's over 60 years. Can you believe that? That's amazing. Well,
she's a saint to be with him for that long. Although I love your uncle, she's a saint to be married to him. So congratulations and happy anniversary to them both.
Yep. So any event, I think I'm finished with that. And why don't you start it off, John, and talking about what a great sports weekend. I have so much to talk about this past weekend, but why don't you kick it off and talk about whatever you want to talk about? But we have congratulations to go out.
Yeah, we should talk about the College World Series because, like we said, you got to play in 2 of them, and your alma mater made it in. And I watched that game, and there was no way they should have won that game. But a routine fly ball, and if you've ever been at the ballpark, there's a certain, and you played and probably looked up in the sky playing second base, and and had those nights where the sky is just a certain hue to it, where the ball just mysteriously disappears. It's right before it gets pitch black, and it's right before it's not really, there's still light out, and it's very difficult to see a ball. And that pop fly that was hit just was hit at the perfect time. Should have been the third out, should have been extra innings. And Stanford still could have won the game, but it was an interesting ending to a ball game.
Well, I'm going to throw out my theory because I've never seen that. I've never seen anything like that. I was watching the game closely, and I watched the replay over and over again. I've played many games there in Sunken Diamond. When I played, they didn't have lights, I don't believe. Yeah, we didn't play under the lights. Those lights actually were donated by, I think, Steve Buechele and Jack McDowell, who are both pretty good baseball players out of Stanford. They donated, I think, those lights to Stanford baseball.
Well, they must have saved some money and not put enough lights in there. That's probably why.
Yeah. Well, here's my theory. I personally think, and this is because I've been watching baseball a lot, since, I finished playing the game. I watch it because it truly was, I look at the sports, and it was the sport that I grew up with because my dad was a Major League Baseball player, as you know, and, your father and the baseball history here in Syracuse. So I've watched these outfielders, over the past 40 years, 30, 40 years. And, I just got to believe, this is just my theory, they don't pick up the ball and react the same way we did. And the question is, you have to ask yourself, why is that? And my theory is, we didn't grow up with video games and iPhones and all this. We grew up, our parents, your dad and my dad, and all the father parents out there said, get out of the house and go play. I mean, we were playing catch all the time, playing catch.
Yeah.
We played catch, I guarantee you, twice as much, more, 2 times as more than the kids today. That's all we did, play catch. So our ability, our visual ability, whether it's dimensional or, the peripheral vision, it was different. Now, I think, with Apple's new $3,000 VR, AR, maybe there's technology that's going is going to start helping these players. When the ball's hit, they can, jump and know where it's going to go. Because many of them, when the ball's hit, they delay and then they start turning and they don't know where the ball is. John, that's just, and I say, why is that? Because I don't remember players when I played, they weren't as fast, they weren't as big, they weren't as strong, they couldn't jump as high. But when the ball was hit, the outfielders, they knew quicker where it was going to go, and they would run and make some catches today, which today the players today make it look a catch like, oh my God, it's a great catch. Some players would catch it just like this because they get the break on the ball. So my theory is when they catch that ball. That's just my theory. And
it could be. I mean, it could be. But I think a lot of it is, growing up, having the opportunity to hang out in the clubhouse and on the field when guys would take batting practice, especially early batting practice. I would shag balls at it. I mean, shoot, I was shagging balls 8 or 9 years old. And I think the more you do something, especially fly balls, the better you get at it. And I just think that when you watch batting practice, if they even have it anymore outside, guys aren't out there. They're doing something else. Usually they let the pitchers shag and throw the balls in, the extra guys. But, back in the day, guys, I remember there was an outfielder named Rick Blatt who played a number of years in the minor leagues. When he went out to center field during BP, you got out of that area because he was practicing his craft, judging fly balls, and you moved over to left field and got out of his way. And there's a number of guys that used to do that. And that's where you learn how to get your break on the ball, where to go, judge the distance when a ball is hit over your head to go back, when a ball's hit below your face to come in. And people just don't do that anymore. I mean, it's probably part of analytics that, hey, you don't need to do that to become a good outfielder. Just get on base and hit 220 and you'll be all right. But it's a big part of the game, and it determined the Stanford Texas game. I mean, it was the reason why Texas is home and Stanford's there in Omaha.
Yeah, no, and it happened. I mean, the same thing happened to Stanford in the game before. I mean, the outfielders collide, not knowing who calls. I mean, it's just, I mean, from my perspective, it's not good, and I feel bad because I think the coaches at that level, it's hard to change bad habits. It's got to start. You got to start at the little league level, teaching kids the right fundamentals on how to go catch a ball. And I would say to those kids that want to be a Major League Baseball player, and if they say mom or dad at age 7 or 6 or 8 or 9, mom and dad should say, well, you know what? Then we don't want to play too many video games and be on the phone too much. We want to be outside playing catch, because the more kids, it's just like hitting. The more times you get up to bat and you swing the bat, the better you will get, in my opinion.
Now, you were an infielder. You played the infield, right? All of your career?
Outfield.
Oh, you were an outfielder?
Outfield.
I thought you were a second baseman.
No.
But
I was not. No, I was outfield. So that's why I know the outfield. I don't know infield. I don't catching. My dad was a catcher, but I know outfield. I've watched them get breaks on the ball. And
see, you learned something even on this show. But I played the infield when I was younger. But there was nothing better, and you'll probably agree with this, than because in the infield you got to worry about too much stuff. Guy stealing second, where you're going to shift to if a certain batter's up, a double play, cutting the guy off at third if there's a ground ball hit to you if he's going that way. There's too much to think about. To me, the outfield, especially center field, is the greatest position ever. I mean, it's just, and there's nothing better than catching a fly ball. I mean, running down a fly ball and you get an out for it. To me, it's like there's nothing better than that. And shagging fly balls, as you probably did, and I had the opportunity to growing up, it was the coolest thing in the world. And why anybody would want to play any other position in the outfield is, especially center field, because you can go on either side and dominate the field. To me, it's the best position in the game, besides catcher maybe, which you're involved all the time.
By the way, a friend out there, Jill, said I was frozen. Yes, Jill, I know. I've got a bad connection.
Yeah, it was a while ago, though, I think.
Okay. I'm frozen. Hopefully I'm unfrozen here. Jill actually has two sons that play baseball. And Jill, just get them out there playing catch. And, center field, for anyone out there, when you think of that great song, John Fogerty, put me in center, let me play, Well, if you're a center fielder, you take charge. You're the captain out there. You want to catch every ball you can catch.
Yeah.
So when you go after the ball and you believe you've got it, you have to say, I got it. And the right fielder, left fielder, shortstop, second base, first base, whatever, the center fielder says, I got it. And everybody should get out of his way. It's real simple. But John, I see at the major level,
There we go. You're back.
Yeah, well, I'm going to. Is someone on the internet playing video games? See, it's okay. You know what it does? I think you know what it does. Like when you do this streaming.
Oh yeah.
I think it.
Yeah.
That's yeah. But anyway, no big deal. It's my fault. I should do it in the morning.
Yeah, you want to redo? You want to redo this?
Oh no.
We're good.
There's no redo.
All right.
No. We keep going.
All right.
You keep going. It's just I think we've got people. Yeah, it's on the other line. But go, keep talking.
No, I can hear you. That's good. We're good. Well, we talked about the Stanford Texas game, but the team that you talked about early in this whole thing, Oral Roberts, who you were amazed that they were in a tournament, and they always have a good program, as you said. They made it. I mean, if you look at the 8 teams that are in, the LSUs, the Floridas, the Tennessees, all the programs, Virginia, that normally get in, I guess Oral Roberts is the one team that you would say, do they belong? And but it's a pretty good field of college baseball. Kind of the favorites kind of played out, and should be an outstanding College World Series this year.
Yeah, it should be a great World Series. I mean, some of the teams, I put a list of the teams down here. We've got here, I just wrote this down late last night. We've got the Horned Frogs are taking on, of TCU, are taking on the Oral Roberts Golden Eagles at 2 p.m. on Friday. And then the Florida Gators are facing the Virginia Cavaliers at 7 p.m. And then on Saturday, the Stanford Cardinal, which is a color. Some people think it's a bird. No, it's a color, just like the Harvard Crimson. Stanford Cardinal are taking on the Demon Deacons of Wake Forest. And I looked up, why did Wake Forest come up with the Demon Deacons mascot? And it's just a little trivia here. 1941, Jack Baldwin, class of 1943 at Wake Forest, which is a little bit earlier than Arnold Palmer. It was probably a little later than that. He took on a fraternity brother's dare and dressed up as he thought an old-time Baptist deacon would. So he wore a top hat, a tuxedo, and was carrying a black umbrella. And according to Wake Forest's website, the football crowd loved it, and they called him from that point on the Demon Deacons. Interesting, huh?
And actually, now that you say that, growing up, good friend of mine, Joe Delfo, lived a block over from me. His cousin was Brian Piccolo. And I believe Brian was a Wake Forest grad, if anybody remembers that movie. And growing up in the summer, Brian would come and visit his cousin, and we get to meet him, a real Chicago Bear, and met him on 2 or 3 times when he came to Central New York and visit his cousin Joe and his aunt and uncle who lived next to us. And we would fight, during the football season when you collected the cards, the NFL cards. They would always want my Brian Piccolo because they were related to him. So believe me, I could trade a Brian Piccolo for anybody I want. Fran Tarkington, Spider Lockhart, any of the great Giant players, and they give me them all just for one card. So Brian Piccolo got the opportunity to meet him and was a very nice man.
Wow. Well, that was one of my favorite movies of all time, Brian's song, with Billy D. Williams playing Gale Sayers, and the great, he just passed away, played in The Godfather, James Caan. James Caan playing Brian Piccolo.
Yeah, that was a classic movie. You couldn't, if you didn't shed a tear in that one, there's something wrong with you.
Yeah, great movie. So anyway, then we got just the other game on Saturday. The LSU Tigers are taking on the Tennessee Volunteers at 7 p.m. So that's the lineup for the College Baseball World Series this weekend. But we've got some congratulations to go out to this past weekend. Very exciting about Arcangelo, the horse that won the 112th Belmont Stakes. It was the 50th anniversary of Secretariat's Triple Crown. And here's the big news. The first time in the history, a woman trainer of Arcangelo, Jena Antonucci, she trained this horse, which won the Belmont. That's the first time in any of the Triple Crown races a woman trainer. Did you know that, John?
Yeah, it's hard to believe. It's 2023. You'd have thought by now somebody, woman, would have done it. But I guess when you look at the trainers that have won, the Bob Bafferts and the Felchers, and it seems like the same names every year. If they're dominating that field, I guess there wasn't an opportunity for a woman to win. But she was quite excited. He was one of the horses that, after seeing that name, I had an uncle that his real name was Arcangelo, Italian, of course, and the Italian version of it. And so when I saw that name, I said, well, I got to root for this horse at least. And it was 10-1 and went off, and it paid pretty good. So if you had Arcangelo, congratulations as well.
Yeah, it was a great, And then a big congratulations to the world's most popular sport, soccer, which is soccer. We call it, that's in the United States, but around the world, it's football. And that's why I refer to NFL as American football, because football is what we know now as soccer. And Manchester City did what they won the treble. And I'd never heard of that term before. The treble means you win all three major trophies in one season, and that they won the Champions League, the FA Cup, and the Premier League. And it hasn't been done since Manchester United did it in 1999. So congratulations to Manchester City. And I think they're owned by a Saudi Arabian group or person.
Okay. Yeah. Saudis own just about everything right about now.
Exactly. Now I wanted to mention that because that can lead us into, golf. I mean, let's talk about golf. Congratulations to Nick Taylor. And many of you out there probably think, well, who's Nick Taylor? Well, he did something that no Canadian will ever forget this weekend. He won the Canadian Open, the RBC Canadian Open, and he became the first Canadian winner since Pat Fletcher won in 1954. So
wow, I didn't
you
know
want to
that.
mention, what are your thoughts about this PGA Live merger, John?
Well, it sounds like some of the players don't know what's happening, and it sounds like there were some backroom deals that Jay Monahan made without consulting his. When you think about it, the golfers are the boss of the PGA; they run it. They hired Jay Monahan to be their representative, and he made a deal without telling them. And unfortunately, he's in some hot water. A lot of people are saying he won't survive. As soon as this is all done, they'll ask him to leave.
Well, I heard that there was some illness, and I'm thinking maybe he's like really, I mean, this whole situation, I mean, it doesn't look good for Jay Monahan, because not only did he cut the deal, but if you look at his remuneration, the money that he's making, you have to scratch your head and say, he's just an administrator. He's not playing the game. And so there's a little controversy there in the world of golf, I think. So any event.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens, because it's not a done deal yet, and the players have to vote on it, the golf players. So
I heard,
it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
Well, I heard one of the reasons they cut the deal is they didn't want to take it to court, because if they took it to court, they'd have to open up the books. And if someone looked at the books and said, oh my God, we got people that are, I don't want to say stealing, but basically paying themselves and not doing anything.
That's probably a big reason why they didn't do it and try to cut the deal. So something's going to happen out of this, and it's not good for golf.
No, it's not. And speaking of golf, we've got the U.S. Open, and it's being held this weekend for the first time since Ben Hogan battled Sam Snead at the Riviera Golf Club in 1948. That was the last time they had a U.S. Open in Los Angeles, and it's going to be at the L.A. Country Club. They've never had it there, And it's actually one of the first tournaments Tiger Woods, the U.S. Open, Tiger Woods is not playing in.
Now, I've not big on golf, so is Riviera a pretty good course to be? I mean, obviously, for a PGA championship, it has to be.
Well, Riviera is where it was played in 1948, and they still have I think it's the LA Open, sponsored by I think Hyundai, the luxury division of Hyundai.
Now, is that on the ocean, Michael, or is that?
Yeah, the Riviera is on the ocean. The LA Country Club I used to actually live right around the corner from the LA Country Club, and it's in Beverly Hills, basically. And that's where they're holding this week's U.S. Open. So,
yeah, I guess Scotty Scheffler's the odds-on favorite. He's got I think he's only like 4-1 to win, so he's the favorite. And Brooks Koepka, of course, who won the PGA 3 weeks ago, is the second favorite. So those are the two guys that are playing great golf. So we'll see what happens.
And Koepka, Koepka is coming off 3 or 4 weeks ago here in Rochester. He won the Oakwood. He won the PGA.
Yeah.
So and he's a member of the Live group. He's part of the Live. It would be like Rory McIlroy being because I know he was defending, the PGA. He was a stalwart supporter of the PGA, and it's very interesting. But anyway, we move on to the next congratulatory, and it happened last night, and I'll bet you they're still celebrating on the Strip. The Las Vegas Golden Knights won their first Stanley Cup only after 6 years. The first year they went to the Stanley Cup, and now in their 6th year, they win the Stanley Cup, and they're going to have an amazing, I'm sure, ticker tape parade there in Las Vegas in a few days. And my good friend Russ Bourne was there. Russ does the pyro. So anytime there's fireworks that go off in that T-Mobile arena, Russ has got his fingers on that. He's sending off. He's the pyro king of Las Vegas. And he was texting me yesterday saying, well, everyone's excited. And he's probably still out there celebrating there in Las Vegas.
Yeah, that was a dominating performance. I liked the Panthers all year, and Las Vegas was just they were. I mean, when you score 9 goals in a game deciding game 5, I mean, they could have lost it and they still would have been able to play another game, but you scored 9 goals. That's dominating another team, and in the NHL in a Stanley Cup game.
Yeah,
Las Vegas was truly worthy, similar to what Denver did in the NBA playoffs. They dominated the Heat, who were coming in as one of the hottest teams. So you had 2 teams, Denver and in the NBA, and Las Vegas, that were the best teams at the end of the year.
Yeah, congratulations, Jonathan Marchessault, who actually my friend Russ helped, I guess, did it because Russ on the side does doors. Some of his clients are, he's got a lot of famous people in Las Vegas, but Jonathan Marchessault won the Conn Smythe Award. So congratulations to Jonathan Marchessault. And yes, the Denver Nuggets and Nikola Jokic. Wow. And Jamal Murray, Canadian. So you've got two players who, grew up in different parts of the world, who are now on probably virtually, they did something that no NBA players ever done. They recorded in the tournament 30-point triple doubles in the NBA finals. That's never been done before. Jokic and Murray. Did you know that?
Yeah, that was an incredible display, and when you think about all the foreign players that are dominating the sport, I was talking to my son during the game, and he says American guys just aren't good anymore. And I had to remind him that no, they've been playing basketball in Europe and all over the world for a number of years. It just didn't happen when LeBron started playing. Right. When we were growing up, the Russians had Sabonis, who was, I told my son, he was the greatest basketball player that there ever was when he played for the Russian Olympic team. and he would score 40, 50 points in an Olympic game, and no one could even stop him. So, there's been some great players. They just haven't been able to get out of their countries over the last, 30 or 40 years prior to, the players that have come into the NBA now, and they know how to play the game, and they play it right. They play it the way probably Bill Russell and Wilt Chamberlain and those guys played, with good fundamentals back in the day. And that's why those guys are succeeding. They know how to pass, they know how to rebound, box out, and that's why they're successful.
Technology, because Jamal Murray did something that I did as an American football player. He tore his anterior cruciate a few years ago. And here, back when I played, if you did that, you were pretty much, it was over. I mean, they just didn't have the technology. That was 40 years ago. Now you can actually tear your anterior cruciate and you can come back stronger, because not only are you rehabbing your knee, but as you're working out, you're developing other parts of your body. And that's what Jamal Murray did, I believe. I believe he took that injury and he came back, and now he's, world champion. And they brought the first NBA championship to Denver, and in their 40 plus years of playing. And also, I do have to credit the ownership of the Denver Broncos, Stan Kroenke and his son, for keeping Michael Malone. Mike Malone has been the head coach there for 8 years. And you just see, John, today in all sports, if after 2 or 3 years you're not contending for a championship, they fire you.
That's right. Yeah, and his dad, Brendan Malone, coached in the NBA for a number of years, was an assistant on Jim Boeheim's staff back in the day. He got one of his, I don't know if it's his start or maybe along the way, but he was on Jim Boeheim's staff back in the day, and I'm sure his son probably was around then and ran around the Carrier Dome a little bit when he was a little guy, and there he was. He's a good coach, and you can see how he motivates his players.
He's an outstanding coach, and again, it doesn't happen overnight, and they built it, and they're the champions. I think they're going to be a force to reckon with, just like the Warriors for, this past 5-8 years. Warriors have done well. I think the Nuggets they're not going, if they can keep those, Murray and Jokic there. Gosh, those are two pieces. If I were them, I'd keep them. I'd do whatever it takes to keep those guys in the city of Denver.
Well, I think they were saying that the 5 starters and the 2 guys, Brown and Braun, who played off the bench, are all back next year. So they're all going to be intact. So they're going to have the same team. You hope that there's no injuries, because if there isn't, they're the team to beat. And if they add any players to it, as far as draft picks or anything else, they'll be that much better.
Yep. Well, we move on to another great tournament, the Roland Garros, the French Open, and Novak, and pronounce it Djokovic. Novak Djokovic, 36 years old, made history for winning his record 23rd Grand Slam, the most of any person who's ever played the sport of tennis. Amazing, John.
And still isn't allowed to come into the United States to play, I guess, right?
No, I think that's over with. I think
is it over? You sure?
I gotta believe that's over with. Yeah, I mean, and you know what? I think what happened to him in Australia. I mean, that was just terrible. He was there at the Open a couple of years ago, and he said, "Nope, I'm not going to get the shot." And they said, "Well, then you can't play." And he just said, "That's fine." And he left. And now things. I think those athletes that said, "Hey, I'm not getting the shot," I think history will will look back and say, it's their body. They are not obese. They have a high immune system. And if they didn't want to get the shot, they shouldn't have had to get.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate, because it probably cost them a few Grand Slam or major Grand Slams, or whatever they call it in tennis. It's too bad that he missed a few. I think he missed a couple U.S. and this.
LittleDaughter@gmail.com. Explain to me. Oh boy, I'm breaking up again.
There you go. I hear you.
Let's see. It'll come back. Okay, there we go. Yeah, well, you know what, John? This will be the last time we are going to do this in the evening, because I think the bandwidth is not good in the evening. It's better in the during the day. So, any event, turning on.
We'll have to do it.
Yeah, and that's my bad. Okay, now I've got congratulations to Inga, and it's pronounced I think Shawaki. Inga Shawaki. She's the number 1 tennis player in the world, and she also is from outside the United States. She won the French Open. She's the first Polish professional player to win a major tournament, and she's won 4 of them. So, do you know much about Inga?
Nah, I used to follow tennis a lot, but that was when Chris Evert was playing, but I don't follow women's tennis as much as I probably used to.
Well, I follow all the athletes today. I like to follow all the sports because I'm just in awe with the athleticism, whether it's tennis, golf, basketball, baseball, football, soccer, whatever you want to. It is amazing. Diving. I mean, gymnastics. I watch gymnastics. I remember watching Olga Korbut and Nadia Comaneci thinking, oh my gosh, they're just amazing. And now you see the gymnasts today, and it's like night and day.
Yeah,
so
it's amazing. Yeah,
amazing. And then we've got to say congratulations, John, to the Oklahoma women's softball team. 3 national championships in a row for Coach Patty Gasso.
And I was listening to a radio show this week, and they were saying, is Oklahoma a softball school or a football school?
Exactly.
And they've won more national championships in Oklahoma for softball than they have for any other major sport in the last 10 or 15 years. And it was interesting that the team star pitcher declared herself into the portal, as they all do now in college sports, and she's going to Nebraska. So she won 3 championships in Oklahoma, was the most dominant pitcher in that whole series, and says, I'm going to take my talents over to Nebraska in my 5th or 6th year, whatever she has. So that's interesting.
And I got to believe there's maybe an NIL component to that Nebraska said, hey, can you come to Lincoln?
Yep.
Can you come to Lincoln, and we're going to put all our NIL people behind you so that you can make a significant amount of money to help us maybe win a championship and beat your old team. And it's interesting that we're talking about this because a friend of mine who I'm going to try to get on the dot, Gary Cavalli, who's a former sports information director at Stanford and helped start the ABA, which was the women's before the WNBA. Gary was instrumental in starting the league that was before the WNBA. And so Gary wrote, he has a blog that he writes called Inside Track. And he talked about how, the NC2A, when you talk about American football or basketball, and now all sports, really, you got to say all sports, it's professional sports in college. Would you agree with that, John?
Oh, yeah. I think it was before this, but for a few, the good players like Michael Dotter and John Elway, I'm sure got taken care of a little bit better than that backup center fielder that you had on your team or the backup quarterback at Stanford. So, but yeah, I think now today, and I know this because Alex, my son, trains athletes, and a couple of them had to decide the last few years, do I go back to school and get paid a guaranteed $400,000, or do I get drafted and only get paid $100,000? So, there's a lot of guys that are going back and playing a 4th year now, or a 5th year if they have that, versus getting drafted and getting paid a low amount bonus money, and then going and playing an A-ball in a minor league city making $1,200 a month, when you can stay on campus and double your money and increase your opportunities to get drafted at a higher level as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's all good. I'm happy for the athletes. I think it's, it's big time entertainment, and there's big money, and there's no question that you don't have a game without the players, on the stage. So I'm happy for all the collegiate players. And I definitely want to mention also, finally, and this is a sport that I love watching, because I played this sport, or I should say I ran track, and I love track and field. And this past weekend, it was the NC2A track and field championships from Austin, Texas. And congratulations go out to the University of Texas women's track team. They won the national championship, and a former Stanford track coach, Edric Florial, led that women's team. And it's just amazing to watch these women run. They just are so fast, and it's just exciting. I love watching track. And then congratulations to the University of Florida men's track team, who won the national championship for the men's. So I think we've covered a lot of the sports that went on last week.
One of the things I wanted to bring up to you, because I know you're a Bay Area guy, right? I mean, grew up somewhere in the Bay, or I'm sure spent some time there. But what do you think of this Oakland A's? Last night, they drew almost 30,000 people, and they were all there basically to boo the owner and demand that he sell the team. And they saw the A's win their 7th game, I think 7th or 8th in a row, and beat the best team in the baseball right now, the Tampa Bay Rays. And it was an interesting night in Oakland.
Yeah, it's really sad for the city of Oakland, because with the leadership, which I think the lack thereof, they just lack the leadership, in my humble opinion, to keep the Raiders, the Warriors, and now the Oakland Athletics. It's the trifecta. I don't know has that ever happened in U.S. sports history, where a city loses 3 teams in 4 years.
I can't think of any city that's ever even come close to that, even 2, let alone 3.
Yeah, no, it's a sad day for Oakland, but Las Vegas, I think they're going to get the Athletics. They're going to build a great stadium in Las Vegas, and the city of Oakland. What are you going to do? I just feel bad, because, and I remember vividly 8 years ago. I'm just going to say 8, could have been 10. I tried to reach out to the leadership in Oakland to try to connect them with people that I knew that through my Stanford network, that, if they wanted to broker a deal, they could have done it, because there's a lot of money in the Silicon Valley. And it boggles my mind how you have that many resources and you let there we go.
Yeah, it's unfortunate that's happened. I know I heard Reggie Jackson on the radio recently promoting his movie that's out on, I don't know if it's on YouTube or whatever channel, but he had a group that wanted to buy the Oakland A's, and the commissioner chose the current group that's there. And Reggie's a Bay Area native, grew up in that area, played for the A's, and that's probably what it needed to survive. And it just seems like the fans are saying, we'll come out, we'll support this team, and you can draw 30 or 40,000 people a game like everywhere else, but you got to put some money in and keep the guys that we keep developing for all these other teams. And they just haven't done it. Major League Baseball has done nothing to the ownership there, asking them to, take care of the organization. And it just seems like the owner there is just trying to dump the team. So it looks like that might be it for On the Dot this week. I want to thank Michael for battling through the technical difficulties, and we'll be back next week, and hopefully with a better signal. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, well, I apologize. We've had some technical difficulties, but we'll be back again next Wednesday, and we will do this in the morning, not in the evening. So, again, apologies for the technical difficulties, but we'll be back with the little text on the dot in. Yep, I'm just signing off. It came back on. I can't believe it.
Yeah, that's what I did. I figured
Hold on here. Okay, folks, signing off. Have a great evening and have a great weekend. And go Cardinal against the Demon Deacons. All right, let me end that.